to the Macworld Podcast. I'm Roman Loyola here with Jason Cross.
Good morning.
And Michael Simon.
Hello, sir.
This is part 2 of our follow-up to WWDC, which happened last week. We already talked about Apple Intelligence, iOS 18, and macOS Sequoia. So check out episode 888 if you want to hear about those. This week, we're going to cover everything else, and it's a lot, so let's just jump into it with iPadOS 18. iPadOS 18 is going to get basically a lot of the stuff that's in iOS 18, including the intelligence stuff. I guess the one marquee feature is, and it sounds kind of funny or pithy or whatever, is the calculator that iPad is going to get. Everyone's been asking for an Apple calculator for the longest time. You can always get a third-party calculator, but
it is smarter than your average calculator.
There's a calculator app, and it's like the calculator app on your iPhone and stuff. And then there's that math notes thing, which is a whole other animal, which is really cool.
It's the kind of feature that, had they released it, I don't know, whenever Apple Pencil came out, what was that, 5 or 6 years ago? Like, if this was what they came out with alongside Apple Pencil, it would have been like, oh, whoa, now we really see, like, listen, Apple Pencil is really good if you're an artist. This is the one of the few, if only, features where, I would consider getting an Apple Pencil from my iPad, even though I'm not going to paint with it or draw with it.
Right.
Yeah. So with math notes, you can basically write an equation or, some other math notation, and a calculation will be done in the background, and it will then post the calculation in your handwriting. And you can even make revisions to it. So if you wanted to change some factor or something like that, it will redo the calculation and repost it in your handwriting.
Yeah.
At WWDC, that got a lot of oohs and ahs from the audience.
Well, yeah, it's an ooh and ah feature. I mean, it's pretty incredible to watch. So my son is in middle school. He's basically surpassed my math knowledge, or at least what I remember of my math knowledge. So there's a lot of times when he'll be like, can I get some help with this? And I'll go to YouTube to watch a video because I don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah.
And now, like with an iPad, I can be like, all right, well, let's look at this. I can check his work. I could look to see if, like how it's figured out. Like, it's pretty incredible how, it's also dangerous because if someone has one in class, they can cheat on a test. But aside from that, or even their homework, like they can just go home, write the equation down on their iPad and then just fill it in. But it's, it updates dynamically as you change things. It understands equations and understands word equations. It's pretty impressive what they were able to do with this feature.
And part of that is really using this other feature that they did, which is, I forget what they call it, handwriting something. But it's basically copies your handwriting, and that's used throughout places that you can use handwriting, like notes and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be in a math note, but it will literally copy what your handwriting looks like, and it can.
It's called just quick. It's called Smart Script.
Yeah,
is the feature.
Smart Script. It copies what your handwriting looks like. It kind of cleans it up a little bit. You can even the stuff you wrote, it'll just and that way they can do things like autocomplete. And everything works with your handwriting, not just with typed text. I thought that was really cool because as somebody with absolutely terrible handwriting, every time I take an Apple Pencil to an iPad and start making notes, it's kind of useless because my handwriting is so bad. It would be nice if you select it and just say, like, clean this up, and just it still looks like my notes, but it's legible. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I have horrendous handwriting on paper and on the iPad. And this is like it. I haven't tried it, but based on the demo, it really worked well. Like it uses like your own personal kind of calligraphy style. but makes it where you can see it. It's good.
Yeah, it just kind of like straightens everything out, and makes the little loops visible and stuff. And people discount what a great note-taking device the iPad can be, because like you can go straight to notes just by when your iPad screen's off, just like tapping it with the Apple Pencil, and just start jotting notes down. Like there's a lot of ways to quickly take notes on an iPad that kind of go underappreciated, and it's because, well, yeah, handwriting notes isn't that special, but they're making it special. I like that. I kind of like that. It's like, oh, you can put these things in there. The AI is the other thing. There's a magic pen device that you can to put in AI generated images. You can either sketch something and circle it and get an AI generated image of that thing you sketched, or you can just circle an empty space and it'll look at the rest of the text and notes and stuff you took around it and go like, oh, here's an image that makes sense for this, and drop something in there. Like those are things where they're making note taking good.
It's called image wand.
That's it, image wand. Yeah, like it looks like a little magic wand tip.
Like a little wand, yeah.
So I saw a demo of image wand in one of the briefings at WWDC, and one of the things that stood out to me about it though was it was really cool. The demo that they showed was it was notes on how to build a doghouse, and it had a parts list. So 6 2x4s, da 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 da, and then the person sketched a doghouse, circled it, and then a image of a doghouse appeared, a nicer, more polished. The thing was, I got distracted by the rest of by that image because it didn't fit the parts list.
Oh, okay.
So I was sitting there looking at the doghouse and going, no, those aren't the right. It's using different parts than what's listed on the thing. So, I'm sure that feature is beta.
The parts list?
The sketch no, because it was a really rough sketch. And sure, I know it was a demo. It wasn't, they were doing it to quickly show an example of how it works.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's just me being pedantic and nitpicky, because we work with content for a living. I'm going to be picky about that kind of particular. Maybe somebody else won't be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they're more images for flavor than they are diagrams.
So the image didn't match like the actual thing that was on the page.
Well, the thing that was to me was they were saying it can take it understands the context of what you're writing and create an image, but
it was that it was a doghouse.
Yeah, but it was clear that it was creating the image based on the sketch of the doghouse, not on the parts list. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did they do a demo? Did they do a demo where they just like circled an empty space?
Yes, they did do that demo,
but not the doghouse. That was something else.
No, it was. I think it was a cake, if I remember correctly.
But that's the kind of thing where it's like your ingredients list might be for a chocolate cake with raspberry frosting, and then you circle the thing, and you're just going to get a picture of a cake. You're not going to get a chocolate cake with raspberry frosting. You might get a chocolate cake. It's not going to get the details, and I wouldn't expect it to, because it's not really getting a diagram. But that's this is early on-device machine learning. AI stuff, but
I wouldn't be surprised if Apple even started attaching a disclaimer underneath it that said something like "for illustrative purposes only" or something like that. But yeah, that's that. Maybe I'm being too nitpicky about that, but that's what I did notice during the demo. So, otherwise it worked pretty well.
Like it just looked differently. Like the one you saw had a door or something, and this one didn't. Like what was so different about it?
No, like the one that showed up, I believe it was purple, and the parts list didn't have any paint listed, or if it did, it wasn't purple, or like it said something like, I don't remember exactly, but I think it said something like 6 2x4s, and it was clear that this doghouse that showed up required more than 6 2x4s.
Okay.
like I said, I was being extremely nitpicky, but like, we work with content for a living. We're nitpicky like that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm sure in a year, maybe less, they will be able to like really nail down that context.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, it's like a pre-beta at this point, so I'm not totally surprised that it's not getting all of that information. But pretty impressive that it knows that it's a dog house.
It was impressive that it knows that, and in the whole scheme of things, maybe that's really not that big a deal. Yeah. But I guess my point is, if you're hoping to create content and you want extreme accuracy with the images, you're hoping to save a step that you don't have to create your own images. You might not be able to do that with this.
Yeah,
this tool.
You're not going to make diagrams, right? You're
right, exactly.
Right,
that's my
or
point.
Blueprints or something like that. These are all just going to be flavor images.
Yeah,
it's the same system kind of used throughout iOS and iPadOS, like in messages and stuff like that. You want to make a picture of your mom with a birthday cake or what, and you get a cartoony version of your mom. Yeah, so it has the same limitations too. None of it's realistic.
Yeah.
There's like, what is it, 3 or 4 styles you get sketched.
It might even be like erring on the side of hyper unrealistic, so there isn't any confusion.
That's true.
Yeah, well, the styles available in Apple's image generator stuff were animation, illustration, or sketch, and none of those you're going to confuse for a photograph,
right?
Ever,
right?
And so you're going to know this is an AI generated image or something.
As far as other iPadOS features go, like I said, I think pretty much everything from iOS 18 is going to be incorporated. We didn't get anything in terms of any new updates to Stage Manager or anything like that.
Didn't see any. It wasn't on their site where they list, a bunch of features and everything. So
you can do, as Roman said, all that customization stuff, which in prior years has been like delayed by a year. The tinting of the icons, the moving around of the icons, the adding space, like that's all available. I'm interested to see how that works with the landscape portrait orientation. Like that's always been the hiccup with iPad is that when you flip it, everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all there in the first one. Also locked apps and hidden out, like all that stuff's coming, which is great. But as Roman says, there's Stage Manager, but there's also just the overall general iPad-ness of it.
Right.
Like we were hoping that, all right, so Apple in May brought out this really incredible iPad Pro M4 processor, super thin, really meant for like high-end travel, road warrior type stuff. And it's just like, it's still an iPad. It's still just a slightly more powerful, bigger iPhone.
As much as I really am glad that all of the home screen customization stuff, the new super customizable control center, which will have like third-party tools. I'm glad all that stuff's coming to iPad right away, but it really kind of hammers home the whole like, this is a big iPhone, thing. And I wouldn't want them to not have those things, but they really need to do more to make it clear.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that I thought it would get is Mac OS has this new tiles feature where you can like arrange things in neat little quadrants. That's perfect for the iPad, and it doesn't have that.
Especially the big ones, especially those 12.9 inch. Like that's a MacBook at that point. Yeah.
In fact, you could argue that it's more valuable on the iPad than the Mac, even because people are so accustomed to doing things a certain way on their Mac. But maybe next year. But it's like we're always saying that. Maybe next year. Maybe next update. Maybe like it's so Apple's thing. It says iPadOS 18 preview totally rewrites rules. It doesn't. It's still
They're
an
just
iPad.
making a writing pun because there's
the
writing
thing. Listen, the Apple Intelligence stuff is very cool, and the Apple Pencil Math Notes thing is very, very cool. It's awesome. But it's also in the same way frustrating that if they can do that with a calculator, like bring all of that to the rest of iPadOS, all of that vision, all of that innovation, rethink how we use our tablets with that in mind.
Yeah, there's honestly just every year there's just the two main things that sort of prevent it from being more than a big iPhone to me, and it's one is multitasking. Right, you've got all this screen space. There's now they just keep adding a new way to multitask.
Yeah, there are
keeping
plenty
all the
of
old
ways,
ones.
but right, none of it's really all that intuitive.
There's like 4 or 5. They're not there. There's a slide over, and then there's the split screen. But sometimes you can move the split screen, and then there's Stage Manager, and it's just like one way, one holistic way, and get rid of all the others to multitask. And then the file management. The Files app is an awesome file manager for a phone. Like it's pretty good local storage management for your iPhone. For an iPad where you're trying to get work done, it's woefully incomplete. Yeah, like it's nowhere near Finder, and it needs to be more like Finder. They just need to really boost the capabilities of the Files app. If they just did those two things, it would just feel like a productivity tool.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about being let down, can we say that I'm a little let down by watchOS 11, and only because it's doesn't seem to be getting any Apple Intelligence features.
Yeah, we're working on a story about that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. Mainly
doesn't
RAM,
have
processing power.
Yeah, most of your iPhones aren't getting Apple Intelligence features.
That's true.
Right? Only the 15 Pro.
Only the highest and latest one. So there are technical hurdles there.
Yeah.
But, like, the watch is the thing that Apple Intelligence would be so useful on, because you always have it. It's always within voice shot, if you will. You're walking around, you're using it for information, quick bits of information, maps, things like that, and it doesn't get any of it. Nothing. There's not even any kind of AI adjacent features in watchOS 11.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that's not has nothing to do with the generative AI, but there's like some new health stuff, like the vitals and training load. Those are based on machine learning models, just like all their other health stuff is. But that's it. Yeah. Like they made the Smart Stack smarter.
They got rid of the Siri watch face in favor of the Smart Stack stuff.
Right. And they made it so that the Smart Stack surfaces something to the top based on more information like time and location and what you normally do at this time. So it surfaces the right widget that you need, and the widgets on there are there's a lot more of them, and they're more capable and stuff like that. And all that stuff's great, but it's not it doesn't really change the Apple Watch much.
Right.
Yeah.
They're letting developers do the double tap feature that, you can there's an API. Actually, there's one feature. It's the simplest thing. And it's the coolest thing in all of watchOS 11 is you can pause your rings.
Yes, I agree. That's actually that's useful.
There's a reason that simple little thing is the first thing on Apple's watchOS page is because there's all these things are based on streaks. Keep your streak going, and God forbid you get sick, stuck in an airport. There are some days when
you just can't do it. Yeah.
But you just can't do it. So now you can pause your rings for a day, a week, whatever, unpause it, and keep your streaks going.
Right.
That is just amazing to me. It's amazing to me that it took so long for them. Everybody's been complaining about this since they started with the badges and everything. They're like, well, how am I supposed to get a year?
Right.
So, yeah. I think it's full of mostly little quality of life improvements and a couple little health.
Yeah. There's some fitness stuff, as always, as Jason said. The vitals, it'll kind of collect all your vital stats into one neat little section. There's a training mode, so you can see how hard you're training for a specific event, like a marathon or something. They always have fun little features, and I don't even know if Apple Watch needs a dramatic overhaul. It's a great device for what it's supposed to do. But the Apple Intelligence stuff would, and not even like the generative emoji stuff. Really, the Siri stuff is the big one. All the chat stuff would be so great on the Apple Watch.
Well, this will bring us into, this is a good segue into HomePod, because I think they share the same problem.
They do.
In fact, I think HomePod Mini shares the same processor. Isn't HomePod Mini based? It's an
Apple Watch processor. I think it's an S5. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all in the same boat of, except for the latest Apple Watch, they have no neural engine, and the neural engine is weak. But also RAM, like really, really, really low RAM. They're nowhere near holding a big large language model, so they're going to have to find a way.
Too.
Yeah. They have enough storage for a gigabyte of large language model or something, but obviously all the image generation, the text generation, they don't need to do a lot of that. But like you said, they need to do the better speech understanding and some of the Siri stuff, not the Siri, like I understand what's on the screen and I do everything with it, but it needs to be a better communicator. They can't just leave all these watches and HomePods behind. I mean, they can't, there's no way they can just say, well, next year, if you want any of this new AI stuff, if you want Siri to be better on your HomePod, buy a new HomePod. Like, they're going to have to find a way to make it talk with a compatible phone or do it online, or like the watch is really weird because you could leave your phone behind. Right. Are they going to make it so like that it doesn't work when you've got your cellular Apple Watch and your...
I mean, well, here's a question maybe for you, Jason. Could they put 8 gigs of RAM? So the HomePod has 1 gig of RAM, and I think the watch has 2, maybe.
Sure.
Could they put 8? Is it technically, whatever that word is it possible?
I don't know if there's a limit to what the S5 can address or something like that, but there's nothing stopping them from putting in some processor with 8 gigs of memory, other than cost, right? Especially HomePods, which are plugged in, so there's not a power use issue.
Right.
It's just like they're not going to blow up the cost of an Apple Watch by putting 8 gigs of memory in it.
But if it requires, so maybe it doesn't require it for all, like it does for like the generative AI drawing stuff, but maybe not for the Siri stuff. So maybe with watchOS 10, not watchOS 10, Apple Watch Series 10, maybe they'll up that RAM to 4 gigs, and it would be able to support
maybe something they'll do.
Yeah,
but
that would be a good selling point for the new watch.
Still, even just HomePods, that lives with Siri. That's how it's the only way you control it. And for it's going to be really awkward when iPhone 16s go on sale, and they all there's a couple of updates to iOS 18. You run iOS 18.4, and all this. Your Siri is all smart, does all this cool stuff, and then the Siri on your HomePod's really dumb by comparison. And you get used to doing stuff on your phone with Siri, and then you try it on your HomePod, and it doesn't work, or it doesn't understand you as well. Or they're going to really have to figure this out. And I don't know what the solution is, because it's not like it can't always just communicate with your iPhone to do the processing. So it's going to have to do this stuff online.
I mean, they're going to need, it's going to be a new. The Mini hasn't been updated in 4 years, 5 years, maybe more. It's been a while, so a new one could address that. A third gen HomePod could address that.
Yeah, but God, can you imagine just telling everybody, go buy a new HomePod, or you're left with the worst Siri ever? They're going to have to make it go online, or it gets processed by your Home Hub, maybe, or something. There's going to have to be a solution. I don't know what the solution is, but they need one.
Are there any smart speakers that use either Gemini or OpenAI? I don't know if there are. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I do know that things like Google's Nest Hubs all process everything pretty much online.
Yes.
Right? Like there's some basic sort of noise reduction kind of stuff going on for it to understand your speech, and it's listening for the wake word locally. But after that, it just literally is doing everything online. So they could update that to whatever the latest Gemini powered tools are or something. It's all in the cloud. And Apple may have to do something like that. Apple may just have to do more in the cloud with HomePods.
Yeah, well, they have that whole private cloud compute thing, so they could do it. If it's going to still be private, they absolutely could.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Apple prioritized models for iPhone, iPad, and Mac.
Yeah,
and then,
I'm actually, to be honest, I'm surprised it's not just an iPhone thing. I was surprised they supported iPad and Mac.
Yeah.
So Mac famously didn't get Siri for a while.
Yeah.
Until, it was, because if you're going to beta test something, so to speak, iPhone, although it's only on 2 models, but that's the one that has the most users. So adding the Mac and the iPad with all those M series processors, it gives you a larger pool of testers at least.
Yeah. So we also got a couple of Apple TV features. There's a new Insight feature.
Yeah, that's actually pretty neat. If anyone's used Amazon Prime Video X-Ray, so it gives you like little tidbits as you're watching a movie, which all the time I'll be watching something like, I know that guy, where's he from? Or what's that song? Or whatever. Yeah. And so it'll give you all that information if you click an RSC, or I guess, or however it works. As you watch it, it'll come up on the screen.
So for Amazon Prime Video, it's every time you pause, it shows. The way to work for Apple is you swipe up, and it pops up. Here's the actors on screen right now, and then if there's a song playing, here's the song playing. I don't think it's anything more than that, but you can do stuff like add that song to your Apple Music, like right there. Or you can click on those actors and see what other stuff they've been in. It is limited just to stuff from the TV app. So it could be Apple TV Plus stuff or movies and shows that you buy through Apple.
No Netflix.
Netflix never does any of that. But even things like HBO Max or something like
all right.
Even they support the up next queue and stuff, but that's not this. It's only stuff that's using Apple's video player and metadata. Right? Because they have the scene by scene metadata and stuff for all this stuff. So it's
just going
to be TV Plus and stuff you buy through Apple.
Do you know if there's an API for developers, tvOS developers?
They mentioned specifically, like in the little footnote on their screen, that's what it's for. It's just for those things. So I would imagine not, but maybe that's a thing like next year. I don't know that Paramount and HBO and Disney and all those other guys are gonna go in and add scene by scene metadata for all of their shows.
There's also a better enhanced dialogue feature.
I actually use that on my Sonos all the time. I don't know if it's my ears or the way they mix this stuff, but I keep closed captioning on now. I can't hear anything. It's whatever show, whatever service, whatever app I'm watching. What they say. So we just leave closed captioning on 24 hours a day now.
No, I do the same thing.
I'm all for enhanced dialogue support and subtitles. So the subtitle thing seems pretty neat. Like if you rewind it, like they'll automatically pop up because they'll assume that you just missed them saying something.
Yeah, if you just jump back a second.
Right.
I used to do that with the Siri remote all the time. Because if you say, what did he say?
Right,
what did he say? What did they say? It will jump back 10 seconds, turn on subtitles, and then turn the subtitles back off. And basically, they're just saying, well, hey, if you just press the back and just jump back 10 seconds, we're going to assume that's what you meant. Just do that. Turn on subtitles for 10 seconds so that you can hear what that was. I think that's cool. And the enhanced dialogue thing, that's neat. It used to be just like basically boosting that level of that frequency range, the vocal frequency range. Now it's a machine learning thing, so maybe it'll work even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of machine learning, like this is another non-Apple Intelligence device that could benefit from it or will benefit from it at some point down the line. Like we were just talking about that Insight thing. if Apple Intelligence with screen awareness, like you no longer need to input all that metadata. It would just be able to like understand, okay, this is the actor on the screen. Let me pull up all this information about them because I know who it is. I can grab it from online and then show it to you.
If it was just looking at the screen,
right.
For all I know, that might be how the music part of it works because they got Shazam.
Sure.
They can Shazam live things. They can Shazam video you're playing back and stuff already, like on your iPhone and everything. So it wouldn't be surprised if that was powered by the Shazam stuff, the music part of it.
Yep.
There are also new screensavers, including a Snoopy and Woodstock screensaver. And now there's support for 21:9 projectors. I don't know anybody who uses a 21:9 projector.
That's for rich people's houses, man.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Like native 21:9 projectors is some we have when you have a home theater where you mean like, no, we have like theater seats and popcorn machines. Like that's those people.
Yeah. Speaking of rich people, there's a new version of visionOS for people who went and bought Apple Vision Pro. The one cool feature I thought was really cool was the Mac Virtual Display. They expanded it so that it supports wide and ultra wide screens.
Oh, it's so clever how they did this.
It's significantly larger. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically two 4Ks slammed next to each other, and it's so smart how they did this because the issue was it doesn't have the bandwidth, the wireless bandwidth, literally, to send two 4K monitors worth of resolution in real time, like with good latency and stuff. So what they did is they did like the Vision Pro does this foveated rendering thing where like the center of wherever your eyes are looking uses the eye tracking, and that stuff is rendered at full resolution and everything else falls off to lower resolution. And that's how they're able to like draw 90 hertz, this super high res, like dual eye thing. So they're just doing that for the displays on the Mac and then sending that already foveated rendering thing to your Vision Pro, so they can send a lot less data. They can send the only part that needs to be sharp is the part where your eyes are looking. I'm really curious to try it out because they're going to have to do like the eye tracking information has to go to your Mac, draw the screen, and then go back.
Right.
Like where you're looking. That round trip has to be pretty quick, or it's gonna every time you move your eyes, it's gonna take a second, like a split second to get clear. So I'm curious to try that out. But that's it, man. Now it's a real feature. It used to be like, well, I have a $3,500 headset I could have replaced with a $600 monitor. Like, who cares? But not everybody has room or the money for two big old 4K displays hooked up to their MacBook. So that was a killer feature to me.
Yeah. Is that more killer than the new spatial photos?
I can't wait to see how that works.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they look. So what Roman's saying, so they're basically allowing you to create a spatial photo out of a flat photo. So anything in your photo library is going to use, I don't know, I guess AI and stuff to create like artificial 3D. And that could go spectacularly wrong, but I'm curious to see how that, like the photos they showed in the demo were cool. So we'll see how it does that. But if that works well, presumably the next step, I guess, would be short little videos as well, which would be cool.
Vision Pro also got some home screen upgrades.
Minor stuff like being able to move things around on your home screen.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to explain to people. You can't move your apps on a Vision Pro. I'm not talking about move them anywhere, like on the new thing. I'm talking about like reorder them at all.
Yeah.
So that's new.
Yeah, it's funny what Apple lets you do and not do. Someone asked me last week after WWDC, like, I see that one of the features is Apple lets you put your icons wherever you want. You couldn't do that before. It's like, well, no, honestly, you couldn't. Like it always it would go to the top left open spot no matter what.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's insane that this is a new thing.
17 years later.
that's not what you're getting on Vision Pro. You're not getting put them anywhere. You're just getting
you could literally reorganize them.
Reorder them. Yeah. Put them in a folder, take something out of your compatible apps folder and put it out there on the screen. So
that was, I mean, it's that literally iPhone or Phone OS 1. You couldn't do that with, so it's following the same path. So in 17 years, we'll be able to put them wherever we want on Vision Pro.
Yeah.
There's been some nice little updates. Like there was always a guest mode, but you had to go through the whole calibration every time. Now guest mode just kind of remembers the previous calibration, which is ideal for. I'm always handing this off to my wife or something like that. She's not gonna have to recalibrate it every time. She was the last person to use guest mode. So little things like that. Honestly, we didn't expect a lot, right? It's just things just came out in February.
Yeah.
So I think most of it.
I read, Jason, and I don't know if you've installed it yet, that it's not on. It wasn't in the keynote. Let me check the website. But like personas now have hands that you can do stuff with, like do high fives and things.
Oh, right. Yeah. So they've had hands. If you have the spatial persona, not the one trapped in a window, but like if an app supports the spatial persona where you come out and when they move on your. But apparently there's now like a little bit of feedback, like when your hands touch their hands, like you high five or your fingers touch. Or something.
That's what it is.
There's like a little video glow, like an audio thing. Have not tried that out. I don't know anybody else who has access to the developer beta for me to try it with, or
a Vision Pro.
I know a couple of people with Vision Pros who I've tried some of this stuff out with before, but I don't. They don't
the developer stuff. Yeah.
So it says on the website, now when you capture your persona, you'll be able to enjoy more accurate skin tones, vibrant clothing colors, hand movements are more fluid and natural with new animation effects. And during FaceTime call or third-party video calls, you can add a variety of backgrounds and choose the right one for the right time. So those are the new things with personas.
Yep. Yeah, apparently hand tracking, some of the people have been digging into this, say hand tracking is just better in general. It's less laggy. It's the better cut through.
Yeah, I mean, we fully expected Vision Pro to get better quickly because, it's a pretty important product category for Apple, even though it's very niche right now and very expensive. In the next year and a half, 2 years, when they come out with one that's more affordable, it's going to take off. So it's smart and kind of important that Apple does all this stuff now. So when
these are all just sort of addressing all the complaints from the last few months. One of them that's useful is it's an AirPlay receiver now. So you can AirPlay your phone. You're still going to have to use your phone. You're going to have to touch your phone to interact with it, but you can show your phone screen, for example, in your Vision Pro by AirPlay, or anything else that they don't have an app for. You can AirPlay it too. So stuff like that. It's mostly they're just trying to get it out. They've got 9 new regions coming out this summer.
Yeah,
a handful of Asian regions the end of this month, and then in July some other English speaking like UK, Canada, Australia.
I tend to think that Vision Pro is going to pick up a little more momentum next year after it's been out internationally a little more, and maybe some of this Apple Intelligence stuff gets settled.
A lot more time for software development. This is
right.
visionOS 2 is really kind of like visionOS 1.2. Like it's really, it's not a big, and it's only been a few months. The latest report just came out today was that Apple has paused all of their development on the next Vision Pro, the high-end model, and is continuing work on the affordable Vision product. Affordable meaning price of a high-end iPhone, so between $1,000 and $1,500, like that kind of but half the price.
I mean, that's a pretty. It's still a lot, but that's a significant. If they were to come out with one that does a lot of the same stuff for $1,500 next say October, I think that would sell pretty well.
See, I think that's the idea. They've said they want it late 2025. My guess is visionOS 3 and a new, more affordable Vision product is next year's, holiday season play, and that's where we're going to see a big jump in visionOS and more affordable and all this stuff.
We also got some new features for the AirPods. We finally got the ability to nod or shake your head in order to answer or decline a phone call. And then there's also some new voice isolation features. This is also an AirPods Pro feature. They're really kind of pushing users towards the Pro if you want more of these features. You're not going to get them in the regular AirPods.
Yeah, as they should. The biggest missing whatever is AirPods Max is 4 years old almost, and
AirPods Pro has the newer, faster little H2 processor, so that's but yep. The yes and no is answering declining calls, but I think it's anytime Siri asks a yes or no question like that. Do you want to send it? Those kinds of things. I think you can yes or no your head.
And then there's also a feature like it's personalized spatial audio.
Yeah, that's a thing. Now it's coming to gaming. They've had that for a bit with music and movies. Now it's for games as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that and other gaming mode stuff like just lowering latency. There's a gaming mode on iPhone and iPad now, and it just lowers latency to the AirPods and game controllers.
Yeah,
not huge changes. And if you don't have AirPods Pro, that gaming thing's the only change. Like that's and that only comes to the 3rd gen AirPods, or AirPods Pro or AirPods Max.
There were some other things that weren't necessarily covered in the keynote. For instance, Apple held a session on CarPlay and showed some CarPlay updates. And these are geared more towards developers. So while there are features that, hopefully users will see, they had 2 CarPlay sessions. One was for design and one was more towards coding and for developers. The design one showed off some new customization features. It seems like one of the issues that has come up with CarPlay is that car manufacturers want to be able to have it more in line with their brand, the design more in with their brand. So Apple's trying to offer more customization features.
Yeah, there's a couple of manufacturers who have dropped it in favor of their own kind of navigational UI. Apple is seemingly trying to address that with this new. Well, it's not new anymore. It came out. They previewed it in, I think, iOS 16, maybe. They previewed it. It's called Next Gen CarPlay for some reason. They don't have an actual name for it. But what it does is it takes over the entire instrument panel. The accelerometer, speedometer, all these things. Accelerometer, the speedometer, the gas gauge, all the things, air conditioning, all the things that your car does, more than just like music and entertainment. There's a couple of cars that have been announced. We haven't actually seen any of them yet. They're all very high end at the moment, like BMW and things. So I don't know. It seems like one of these things that's a really good idea. That's going to be very slow to take off because of the expense. Cars are tough because people don't update them sometimes for 10 years. They keep the same car. So when you have new tech, that rollout, unless you're talking about Tesla, where they can push it to a bunch of cars at once, most car manufacturers don't or can't do that. So you just got to buy a new one to get the latest stuff.
They're all building systems where they can, but I think they're all looking at it kind of the wrong way. They all want to build their own ecosystem, and you can never keep up with all the app updates and services and all that other stuff. you're never going to be like, oh, there's new Spotify feature. Now we have to update the Spotify for our car, or Spotify does, and then we have to QA it and all this other stuff. If it's just being pushed from your phone, it gets everything, it does everything. It has your phone state. It's, so the biggest one is GM. GM's decided no more CarPlay. We're building our own system. We're doing our own thing. And then GM's a lot of brands and a lot of stuff. And, the early word on the first version of that, which I think just came out in their latest new EV, is that it's terrible.
I mean, we could guess that, and it's not even a criticism so much of GM, but this stuff is hard to get right.
It's hard. It takes a long time.
Hard. Yeah,
there's a matter of it's not just a technical thing. There's a bunch of taste involved in making an interface that works. But the issue is they all want the data. Nobody wants the expense of building all this smart UI stuff for their car, but they want your data.
Right.
And with Apple, they don't get it. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people are kind of hesitant about CarPlay.
Yeah. Well, what Apple showed was, they showed the ability to customize gauges a certain way. And even though CarPlay will still implement the San Francisco font, you can vary that font a little by making it bolder or making it skinnier or adding other effects. The thing is, the impression I got still, though, was looking at these different variations they were making, it still looks like CarPlay. It still looks like an Apple software implementation.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure these car manufacturers will be sold on that. And I think also that while design and look is an excuse that these companies are making, like Jason said, what the companies want is the data, because that data equates to money, and that's what they want.
Particularly location data of everywhere you're going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very valuable stuff.
Yeah. And until Apple addresses that,
and they won't. Well, they're not gonna. Apple's not gonna, because they don't. That's not their business.
Yeah.
They're not gonna say to Honda, "Okay, sure, we'll let you." They're gonna say, "No, we're gonna provide you the interface, and then you can, whatever you do is on your own."
Yeah.
But then you're building two systems on top of each other, which is what we have now. And I don't know the numbers. I'm willing to guess that more than half, if not much, much higher, just use CarPlay exclusively on their home, their car vehicle navigation system, because it's just superior.
Yeah.
I did read about one cool thing though, this was somebody posting, I think, on Reddit or something, who's been trying these out. But there's an option in the settings now on your iPhone, if you have CarPlay, where actually, gosh, it might not even just be for CarPlay. I think it's just for car audio systems, where if you're playing back Bluetooth, this was non-CarPlay. If you're playing back Bluetooth from your phone in your car stereo, and you ever talk to Siri, it's a terrible experience, because Siri plays through in your hands-free device channel. It's like a separate channel, right? And Roman's over here nodding, because this has happened to him for sure.
Yes.
As soon as you say Siri, the volume's different, it cuts out the sound. It's like it jumps over your display, changes to the phone call display and everything just when Siri talks. Well, there'll be a setting to make Siri play back through your media playback interface to your car. So when you're listening to music, it'll just play back through the same interface it uses to play back through music. So now it's going to be on that volume. It's not going to pull up your car interface. I mean, your call interface and all that stuff. I'm like, that's a huge quality of life improvement for people who don't have CarPlay, who just use Bluetooth to play stuff from their phone.
Anything else from the announcements that we haven't covered? I can't think of anything.
I don't think so. We're kind of in that mode now where it's all the stuff they've announced is through, and everybody's finding the little hidden features they never mentioned.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So the developer betas for all of this stuff is available now, and public betas are supposed to be available in July.
Yeah, probably like the third round of developer betas will be the first round of the public beta. Something like that usually works out to be.
Yeah, it's usually there's two or three
yeah.
developer betas and then a public, and sometime this summer the Apple Intelligence stuff will be added in beta, or some of it, but none of it's there now. Not even the stuff that's supposed to come later, like that's not in there. But even the basic stuff like Siri's new interface, like the Siri that makes the edge of your screen glow and stuff, like none of that stuff's in the developer beta right now. So, and RCS isn't in. So if you're sitting there going, maybe should I get now you can get a free developer account. Should I get it and load it? Like the things you're most excited about aren't there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to have to wait. But as soon as that stuff comes out, we'll have coverage of it on Macworld.com. That does it for this episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 889. Thanks to Jason Cross.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michael Simon.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to you, the audience. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to the Macworld Podcast in the podcast app on Spotify or through any other podcast app. If you have any comments or questions, send us an email at podcast@macworld.com or contact us through X, that's @Macworld, or on Threads, that's @Macworld_HQ, or on the Macworld Facebook page. Join us in the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about the latest in the world of Apple. See you next time.